And hi, if anyone's watching, yeah, thanks for tuning in and listening to the Espruino live stream for Patreon supporters. So until I actually see anyone watching, I'm just going to basically mute everything and wait for you to arrive. Wow, awesome. So loads of people, thanks. Yeah, can you let me know if you have any questions or things you'd like me to cover? So actually, I'll just hi. Yeah, so let me know if there's anything you want to ask. Sorry about the kind of wobbly webcam. So I should just point out that this is very difficult to see with the webcam, but last few hours I've just been working on getting the Nearpixel support for Puck.js and the NRF52 working properly. So it's been in version 1.92, but there was a little problem where the first one or two LEDs would always give basically random values when you were sending data. So this should hopefully have fixed that, and you can now use it using a kind of general require Nearpixel library that should work on all platforms. Oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so literally, if you can think of anything, it'd be great, because I don't really have a huge amount to say, apart from, I guess, update on kind of where I think things are going. So I shall just try and switch this back. Hey again. So yeah, I don't have like main plans apart from maybe trying to push videos a little bit more. But I might have a look at doing like a new product next year. As I said in the update, we're expecting a child, so I fully expect that I will not have a lot of time free for the first few months. So I'm just kind of trying to take account for that and not do anything too crazy. It'll be really interesting to see what happens when this book for Maker Media I'm doing, when that finally does get out. I've got a little bit of editing to do, but that's about it. Right, cool. I'll just have a look at messages. Okay, great. Yeah, so Jim, I don't really know. I guess there's a really nice one on. There's a forum thread with what are you using your Puck.js for, and the nightlight really appealed to me. Just this sort of idea that you're not actually using it to control anything else. You're just using it to make a nice little nightlight that you can press and it will glow different colors for a while and then turn itself off. And you actually end up with a really nice complete little system that you might almost have bought. And Pickled Ham, that's awesome. Are you willing to post up some of like the code and how you've done that? Because that would be really, really good to see. I often think that there are like a lot of people use it and then don't think what they've done is worth uploading and telling anyone about. And yeah, it's really good to see. Ah, okay. And Bluetooth Low Energy on ESP32. I don't know. As far as I knew, the I didn't think the Bluetooth Low Energy API was actually even properly available yet. I'm kind of the same problem with ESP8266 is I'm kind of struggling to make time for it as much as for the boards that I sell. But I've tried to make the Bluetooth Low Energy API. I've sort of started splitting it off so that hopefully we'll be able to write different backends for different platforms to handle Bluetooth Low Energy in the same way with this sort of the same web Bluetooth API that there was before. It's not split very well at the moment, but there's a start, which hopefully when we start to push and do a new product, then push to support Bluetooth on a new platform, then that will be a lot easier. Yeah, for projects and things, if you can post, I mean, posting on the forum's great, but GitHub's probably easier, especially if you're planning on updating it. But if you could just post a link to GitHub on the forum or something, sort of anywhere on like the Puck.js page or whatever, that would be really cool, actually. Okay, so is there anything you'd like me to kind of try and go over or try and make something? So I've got like a massive selection of like all the various bits and bobs that I've had kicking around. So I can try and knock something up if anyone's interested in seeing like how I'd do something in particular, or yeah, if you've got some problem in particular, then it'd be great. I'd be very happy to take a look at it. So, okay. Nice. Sorry, was that a question, Pickled Ham, or was that like what you're doing at the moment? So I guess that's something interesting. At the moment, we don't have. I haven't really used the 800, 900 meg radios very much. There's the RFM. I forget exactly which one it is now, which there is a library for, but I'm not sure I've actually done anything with it. So I'd be interested to know how they work. Obviously, there's the LoRa stuff that I have started doing a little bit more with recently. Yeah, so it's the Hope RF RFM69, which is I think the 800 meg wireless module. Right, yeah, that's really cool. Which module is it? So, is anyone interested in? There was sort of a video that I haven't uploaded properly yet, which was on how I tuned the NFC antenna on Puck.js. So, I get this in here. You know, there's like this aerial around the edge, and actually, it feels like a sort of black art trying to make sure that the antenna is tuned and actually oscillates at the 15 odd megahertz that's needed. So I could show a little bit what I did for that, because there was an article on Hackaday quite recently, well, actually not recently at all, about 2 years ago I think, using something called the Gridbit meter, which I'd never had call to use at all before. And in fact, it sounded like a weird radio ham thing, but actually it turns out to be a really great way to tune NFC antennas. So yeah, unless there are any other questions, I thought I ended up buying this thing, which is actually a Heathkit kit, and it was the only way I could actually buy a Gridbit meter. So it's this box here, and I believe it probably came with all these pre-wound, and then this was like an actual kit that you had to assemble. But it's this really neat little solution. The idea is it's got an oscillator in it that, in combination with these coils, oscillates at a certain frequency. And then when this little meter here actually tells you how much power it's having to put into the oscillator. And the idea is that when everything's perfectly tuned, it's drawing less frequency because everything's oscillating nicely. So if I actually show you this running here, sec. Right. Okay, so I think it's actually 13.5 megahertz we're after. So the idea is you basically jam the little aerial in here. And I'll see if I can zoom out a bit, but I don't have a good focus on this. So, right. Oops. I've got this completely wrong. Okay, so actually I'm probably not going to get any of this in frame. But the idea is you actually put that coil right next to the puck. And then as you move through the signal range, you can see it dipping. And obviously it's actually getting like really, really good there. And then when you actually look it up on here, it's, in this case, this one's a little bit nearer 14. So I've basically gone through with a whole bunch of puck prototypes, trying different capacitors and seeing what works and what doesn't. So the original batch of pucks were reasonably well tuned, but I found that the capacitors have like a 5 or 10% tolerance, and that 5% tolerance was just enough to knock them off from the ones that I had used when I soldered them up. So so the new version actually has a very slightly different thing, and the range on NFC should hopefully be almost double. But well, that's great news about the RFM69 actually. I'll have to give that more of a go. And yeah, I mean, I've never had, I don't think I've ever had anything from Heathkit that I've put together, but you actually can't buy a Gridbit meter now. I had to get this one sent over from America, from eBay, from like a specialist who'd obviously was finding them and reselling them on. So it turns out Bluetooth low energy tuning is I think properly magic, and I mean obviously it's on these modules, but the interesting thing with Nordic on their site, they have an example layout of an antenna for a certain type of printed circuit board, and you basically copy that verbatim. I think it's a design for Altium, And the idea is that you just use Altium to design your PCB, and you just copy and paste this block in with the antenna. And they actually have a service where, I guess it doesn't work for one-offs, but you can actually post them your device, and then they will go and use all the magic tools that they have to try and tune the antenna properly. And so I think that's what Ruvitag did with their tag. So really exciting about the RFM69. I mean, 800 foot's pretty serious, and it's just a proper antenna or just a piece of wire. Have you been able to compare the range of Puck and Ruvitag? I know in Ruvy's Kickstarter they were saying that they'd got like amazingly good range out of it, and doing like a demo. And I haven't actually gone much further than checking everything with kind of reasonable range and looking at the datasheet. So the other thing I thought I'd show you is this is something that I don't think any of you have actually would have come to JS Oxford or JS Bristol. Just a few days ago I did a little talk with this. This is a coil pack out of a BMW. So the idea is you actually have one of these per spark plug, and there's just a really big transformer in. Well, it's not a big transformer, but quite a lot of windings going down to this end between here and here, and then like relatively small amount of windings up here. And I've all hot glued this and put an FET on here, but effectively it's just 3 pins. You've got ground, 12 volts normally, and a signal wire that you pull down to ground to start it off. So I've got just like a little Puck.js here with the FET on it. And the idea is you can kind of loop this into games. So if I swap this over, I hope this is going to end up being crazy small. So I'll need to just put the battery in this to turn it on. This is already in. Nope. But yeah, the idea is I can you can actually pair it with Web Bluetooth, which is, wonder whether it's going to work this time. Okay, and then when the coil's all wired up, whenever you actually crash, it calls a function called player dead, which is literally just not that one. Yeah, in here, and it calls puck.write. So while I desperately need to zoom that in a lot more. So yeah, basically while you probably wouldn't necessarily want to electrocute people, it's a really fun way of actually doing something interesting with a JavaScript game that already exists. Okay. Yeah, so there isn't a Wi-Fi Puck.js at all. So yeah, I mean, all you've got is the Espruino Wi-Fi, which is if I find it, this one. But it's presumably what you'd be doing already. What was... Sorry, I was just looking back at the text here. Okay. So I had just assumed that you'd used Puck.js to do the power cycling. So it's like a standard Espruino board that you're doing it with. So Jim was asking about about tomatoes. So this is something that I'm getting a few more things for. So hopefully I'll do a video about this. But I'm using Puck.js at the moment to water my tomatoes, and every year I've used an Espruino board for it. But this year I'm doing it so that I can at least kind of wirelessly program it. And basically all I've got is I'll just try and find a piece of paper, much easier. Just a second. Okay, so now I have to do is find a pen. So yeah, literally all I've got is a, is this going to work? More or less. A battery, which is actually just a car battery with a solar panel across it. That's going to, I've done this all backwards and horribly. So that's going to an FET, which I also can't draw. And then that's going across a coil to the to a little water solenoid, which I can find a link on eBay if you're interested. And I think I also just stuck a diode across this that way to kind of stop the back EMF from completely killing the FET. But I'm using an ST FET. I can find out the part number, but basically it works really well off 3 volts. So literally all you have to do is connect that and that to Puck.js, and the FET itself and the diode are basically soldered across the coil. So it all fits in like a nice little box. I've got, just a second. So it's basically one of these boxes, which is a magic screw fix thing that costs about £1. But they're sort of vaguely waterproof, enough for just going outside when it's on the side of a wall. So yeah, it's been working pretty well actually. The car battery is just charged up with a solar panel at the moment, but I don't think it really needs it. The camera isn't mobile, but I'm just wondering whether I can hook something up really nastily with Google Hangouts. I think that might be a bit hard to do. It would be really cool to see a few more things monitored with Puck.js actually. So I don't know if anyone's seen this. I'll just swap over to this. So this is the oh, is that gonna, yeah, good. Okay, this is the Node Red thing running on a Raspberry Pi. I've just had this sitting around for a while. And you can easily set it up to do things like, so at the moment I'm filtering off any temperature reading I get on Bluetooth Low Energy, and then dumping this into a graph called room temperature. And if I go to that /UI, it takes absolutely ages to load this. It's a bit, it's not very good at handling large amounts of data, this one. But if we give it a few seconds, it should come up. So we've got here like, this is just running the Espruino Hub software setup kind of as normal. This one isn't working desperately well, but I have a, it's measuring the amount of water in the heating system that we have, which there's a really annoying problem with it. That means that the water builds up and I have to empty it occasionally. And this one's measuring the amount of water that's in the peace lily plant in the front room. And here we have, this is actually the temperature of the hot water. So you can kind of see that every morning I put the boiler on for a really short amount of time to boost it up, just in time for showers and stuff. And then it kind of slowly goes down throughout the day and evening. And obviously these are all temperatures in the house, which I don't believe for a second, because it's like at least 25 degrees C in the office and the air conditioning's been on for ages. So yeah, Espruino Hub, I mean, it could be quite a nice way to at least get something working. If anyone's got any ideas, I would love to see a better dashboard than this though. I know Adafruit has their online one, but it is rate limited, so it might be kind of difficult to get it working nicely. Yeah, so Espruino, it can absolutely control 4 servo motors, or quite a lot more. So you've got 2 options really. If I let's see if I can do this. It's possible that this may not work. No, okay. It's basically, it's not going to show me a webcam view, but yeah. So you've got 2 options really. If we look at the pulse width modulation page, just a second. Wait, in fact, yeah. So you can use the built-in pulse width modulation. So if I look at the Picos page, down here you see a bunch of pins. Anyone with PWM on can be used for pulse width modulation. There are some kind of gotchas for this, that you can't use one with the same timer value. So this one has timer 3 channel 1. You couldn't use one with a timer 3 channel 1 elsewhere, but there aren't actually very many overlaps at all. So yeah, you've got that, or you can do software pulse width modulation, which you can do on any pin at all. So that would look, if, hang on, I'll just get a board on here. So for instance, the Pico doesn't actually have, is that going to work? Oh, sorry, I've left terminal connected. Okay, so it doesn't have proper pulse width modulation on the LED. So you can do analog right, LED 1, and then like the value you want. And normally that will actually give you an error saying, I can't do this, but you can say soft : true to force it. So to get a servo running, I think there might even be a servo library that does this. Let's see. There is. Okay, so this one uses something called digital pulse, which is basically every time you want to send a message to the servo motor, this function is called, but it does it all for you. So you could easily use this and connect pretty much as many as you want. I mean, 4's easy, but you could put one on almost any pin of the Espruino if you wanted. Yeah, we need to sort out like a better way of doing stuff, because at the moment it's quite one way with the chat. I don't know whether I could start up a Hangout and then screenshot the Hangout. But as I've got some time, just 1 second, and I'll actually dig out a servo motor and wire it up. Okay, so if I try and swap this over, right. So I'll just try and find some pins. So yeah, in fact, conveniently, I've got some that are all the right colour here. So I'll just stick some of this. Whoops. Should be wearing a microphone. Yeah, so this is like a standard 9G servo motor, and these are sort of dew-point pin wires, but you could actually just use stripped solid core wire for it. So literally just stick those up. Then you have ground here. Actually, I'll see if I can find a. There you go. So there's the reference for it. You've got ground, you've got the voltage out, which you want to connect to with the red wire, and then the other one, which is just a signal, and you can basically put that anywhere with that servo library. So if I just stick that on B3 here, and then I connect this up. Hopefully you saw that move a little bit. So if I use this code, just give me 1 second. Because hopefully, with a bit of messing around, I'll be able to show you both. I'm still kind of getting to grips with all of this. Okay, and that'll have to do. So I'll just try and get the font a bit bigger on this. So if I reconnect now, so hopefully, because it's a module, you'll have to stick that on the right hand side. But let's just remove all of this code for now, because we don't really want it to do very much when we upload it. And I've just used the wrong name in there. That should have been B3 because it's what we connected it to. Yeah, and you can see it move. So, so yeah, you can quite easily just say move to one location over the amount of seconds, which I hope works. Or yeah, move it back, or move it halfway. And you should be able to do that with as many different servo motors as you want. Yeah, so it's a point with power. You probably want to stick a capacitor across like those two power pins there. Quite a big capacitor to handle things. it wouldn't be too bad with these, and the new Esprinos have a well, in fact, any Espruino Pico you can buy now has got a fuse across it, so you can't draw more power than USB's happy supplying. If you did need to get more power, for instance, you had the servo motors and they were actually having to drive something with a lot of force on it, you'd have to start looking at powering it some other way. And I think for servo motors, the best way is still for AA batteries. In that case, you'd keep ground down the data line, and you'd then take this power line off and have the power line and ground going to the battery pack. Yes, what's Tiny Chat? I haven't actually come across that before. Is it? Does it work? Okay, maybe it does work straight off the internet. So yeah, I mean, we could Flash Player. Okay, that's not ideal. But we could use Hangouts, and I could actually start a Hangout. Yeah, so you can definitely run Miarm with an Espruino Pico. And in fact, I have one that I've rigged up for an event. So just a second. So what I desperately need here is a camera with a wider view angle than this has, but at least for the moment we'll have to stick with it. So yeah, I've actually got Miarm here that I've just stuck a breadboard on with an Espruino Pico. Now for this one, I actually I think this is one of the circuits that you could download off of the, I think it was the Espruino shims page, but yeah, just to make it easier to attach servo motors. But literally all I've got here is all of the grounds are connected together, all of the powers are connected together, and then all the data lines go to different data lines on here. You could just as easily have connected directly. So in this case, I've got the Miarm here, but I've actually got a fake Miarm that I made really kind of badly, but it's effectively potentiometers there, and here, and you can move it around as if it's like a real Miarm, and use it to control the first one. And I think the code for that's online, but if it's not, let me know on the forum and I'll post it. It's dead simple, and I can probably rig that up if needed. The thing with this is like all properly bodged up, but you know, I said about just putting a capacitor on, and literally all I've done here is I've just attached a capacitor across those two pins there, which is, it's not fantastic, but actually it seems to work more than well enough. So is anyone actually interested in doing a Hangouts like now, or I can get it set up for later? But it should be pretty easy to start a Hangout, and then hopefully I can post the link in this chat, even if you can't. But let's see if I can actually get this working. is that going to work? I may have to, oh, there you go. I've actually got power. I completely lied about this. I've put a separate power plug on it here. So if I were to take a battery and plug it in. Oops. Yeah, this really isn't going to work very well, but hopefully you get the idea. Right. So this was at Derby Maker Fair, which is, I think, how Jim's seen it. But yeah, kids absolutely love stuff like this, and you could make it record movements or do something like that. But yeah, so any other questions? Or I mean, yeah, I'm happy to go into other stuff, or I've got a whole bunch of other random things kicking around. Yeah, so in terms of wiring up the Mi-arm, did I have a page on it? So there's something here. Just a second. So there's, if you go to just Espruino/Mi-arm, and so this one's actually using one of the original Espruino boards, so that's not going to be a massive help for you. And this one's actually using analog right. So if you wanted to not care about what pins you used, you'd have to just stick soft colon true in there. But yeah, otherwise, this bit of code will do Mi-arm control with an infrared remote control. You'd have to mess things around a bit. But if you have any questions at all about wiring it up or stuff like that, just post in the forum and I'll kind of give you some advice. If you're using that servo library here, it shouldn't matter. You literally use any GPIO pin that's available as long as it's not used for something else. So like if you were using the Pico on here, these ones that have got the little exclamation mark by them, they're ones that you could use, but I really would advise against it because they'll probably trip you up. In terms of CAN bus, there was, I'll just see, there was someone who was actually looking at implementing it. Now, I'm not entirely certain where it was. I thought someone actually had something that they'd had a play with, or they may have just been talking about it. Potentially it would be possible, but I've had very little interest in it, and because you need to wire up a transceiver as well, I think. Because you've got to have that, you might as well just sort of buy an all-in-one thing and then interface that to Espruino. And yeah, I need to figure out how to do the public Hangouts thing, because I'm damned if I could see how to do it. But yeah, I think especially for like the amount of people that are watching, it would just be so much easier. I suppose the only thing is that I can't mess around with the webcams and stuff. But to be honest, it should be a lot easier because at least then I'll be able to use the IDE and the webcam mode, which is currently broken. well, it's only broken because the webcam's being used for the streamer that I'm currently using. Okay, so yeah, try Hangouts now. Now this is a good question how I sort this out. You may have to actually figure stuff out for me. And actually, so while I'm at it, yes, I have tried running Espruino on solar power. I just trying to think whether I've got what I did around here. Just a second. Okay, oops. So one of the things I did do was just find a cheap USB power bank that would have had all the charge circuitry and stuff in. And I just connected the solar panel straight up to the battery, which doesn't really seem to cause it huge problems because it's not massively overcharging it. And then I took the wire straight out the end, and this will plug into it's a JST 2-pin connector that will go into like a normal Espruino board, or the Espruino Picos have on the back of them there is a little pin pattern there where you can solder on one of these JST connectors and just whack it straight in. So I've had those running for a while. I've also had the tomato waterer last year was using a solar panel, but a massive solar panel and a car battery, because it was also doing the solenoid on and off. I didn't really have to worry about that too much. The other one I've done really similar to the other solar panel is take a really rubbishy solar powered phone charger. I mean, this one is a useless phone charger, but actually it's kind of usable as a solar power battery. There's a page on that on the Espruino website, I think, which is, let's think. So I tend to use this search up the top right, loads, which probably explains why I haven't linked things that well. But so there's a bit of information about it. That was another one I did with a little solar panel running it. And basically, when it's asleep most of the time, you've actually got more than enough power that you can kind of keep it ticking over. You could also just use a long life lithium battery. So I've got an example of that here. Just a second. Where are we? Okay, so this was something that really didn't end up turning out quite as well as I'd expected, but it's a solar power. So it's not solar powered. It's a standard Espruino Pico camping light. It's got a little vibration sensor in it, and all that does is cycle through whether it turns lights on and off, or whether it turns the red LED on and off. And in there, it's got a 3-volt lithium half AA cell, and to be honest, they're not very expensive. I think it's under £1 per cell, and they are, depending on which one you get, they can be sort of thousands of milliamp hours, which will probably last you for years. I mean, this has just been sitting here, hardly doing anything for, I think, over a year now. So yeah, they seem to work quite well. Yeah, so a live video feed could be a really good idea. I'd be really happy to kind of take votes on what to do. And I mean, you know, I can sort of try and hack stuff up together with very little notice, but it, like, if I've got a bit of preparation, I could hopefully walk through doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it would probably be more likely that I wouldn't mess things up completely. So yeah, I have not used the lithium ion battery before, but they look amazing, especially when you're using something like ESP8266 or the Espruino Wi-Fi, really, where, well, especially ESP8266, where the battery voltage coming off of that is basically perfect to go straight into standard electrical devices. So Puck.js would work perfectly, and I keep hoping that there will be a CR2032 size battery. So I've actually got, if I go back to this here is a, you can't quite see it. I think it's LIR2032, and this is actually a lithium ion 2032 battery. And the problem is that these are 3.6 volts to 4 volts when they're fully charged, and you just make out it says 3.6 on there. And 3.6 is right at the top end of what Puck.js and the NRF52 are supposed to take. So I've actually got, if I can find in my massive pile of junk where I put the Espruino board, this one do. So this is a dead one, hence the red scribbling. But actually, it's not that dead. On here, you can see just around those two pads. This is actually a sort of a shorted link. If you cut that link and you put a diode in there, that would give you 0.7 volt of voltage drop, which would be enough to let you use one of these to power that. And it's something I haven't really covered because, to be honest, I think very few people would look at it. But you could actually have solar power powering a Puck.js on a lithium ion. And I just really hope that the LiFePO 4 batteries come in this format at some point, because that would be spot on for all kinds of stuff. Right. So any other questions, or maybe we should call this one a close for today. But I say sorry, it's all been a bit of a mess because this is like the first time I've tried to do something like this. So yeah, it would be, well, I definitely will be doing another one. But any ideas for how I could make this better, how I could make it smoother? For instance, by getting a webcam that was less rubbish. And I think probably, yeah, Hangouts is the way forward, especially if I can do screencast. I can do kind of all the same stuff without really having to have any of the hassle. Unfortunately, I couldn't find out how to do it. And the votes were for something like, well, the votes were mainly for Google Live Streaming rather than Hangouts. But it looks like you can do both. I'll just have to experiment a little bit more. So yeah, I guess that's it then. But yeah, thanks for watching, and really thanks for all your support on Patreon. It's been really, really cool, and I will try and make more of a deal of making time to do stuff that isn't kind of explicitly related to the Espruino boards, because yeah, it would just be good to see it used more in general. So thank you. Cheers.